How hard is it at times for us to point the finger at ourselves when we are having difficulties in relationships with other people? Unfortunately, my friends, sometimes we have to point the finger at ourselves and own our own stuff to realize that we may be part of the problem. And as difficult as that is, that's reality. That sometimes we can't even see what we may be doing to damage the relationship or damage ourselves because we are so caught up in what the other person is doing. We never turn the finger and look at ourselves. And it's not fun and it's not easy, but we have to realize the role that sometimes we play in the relationship breakdown, whether it be communication, whether it be lack of patience, lack of compassion. We may be needy, we may be overwhelming the other person, and we put a certain expectation on other people when we are needing something from them. I've learned for me personally that I know I am not a good listener. I'm not a good listener because when people are talking, I have found that I am on to the next thing. It's not in a negative way, but it's because I care so much about what the other person is saying that I tend to be 2 steps ahead. So I'm already anticipating what that person is going to say before they even say it. So I tend to interrupt and I don't even let them get their piece out because I am repeating back to them what I think that they mean. And nobody wants that. Everybody wants the opportunity to be heard. And you want me to listen to you and I want you to listen to me. So by me interrupting you and realizing that I'm repeating back to you what I think you're about to say, that's not what you want from me as a listener. You want to be heard. You want the opportunity to say what it is that you need to say your own way. And I've realized that that is a fault that I have, that in communications with other people, I tend to interrupt and I tend to think ahead and answer your thought before you even get to say it. So I've had to turn the finger around at myself and realize that when it comes to personal relationships, I need to clean up my act because that's not fair to other folks. Sometimes we have to look at our own selves and realize, what am I doing in this relationship where I could make an improvement? Am I not patient enough? Am I not a good listener? Am I not compassionate enough? Do I not take the time to see other people's point of view? And if you are serious about fixing some of your own stuff to make your personal relationships better, you better start pointing the finger at yourself and say, okay, this is an area I can improve on. When I started realizing I was doing this to people, when I started realizing this was something I need to work on, my relationships with others started to improve because of the fact that I would cut them off and I would interrupt. And it wasn't out of disrespect. It wasn't out of love for that person. It was that I cared so much that I'm like, I'm with you. I get what you're saying, but that's not what somebody else wants to hear. With some people, we have to take it upon ourselves and be the bigger person and say, what have I done to encourage this breakdown of this relationship? What can I improve on? Can I be a better listener? Can I be more patient? Because I expect everybody's pace to be at my pace, and that's not reality. I can, be more compassionate and understand their perspective, even if I don't agree. To be a good partner or a good participant in a relationship, you've got to be willing to look at yourself and figure out what you can do to improve, to make the relationship better. Everything is not always everybody else's fault. And that's not easy for a lot of us sometimes, right? We always want to blame someone else. It's easier to put the blame on someone than to turn the finger at ourselves. So I encourage you today to think about some of the relationship struggles you were having, or maybe having. What part do you play in it? And how can you improve on your end to make those relationships better? Every relationship is a two-way street. Even if it's not 50-50, it might be 60-40. It might be you're the giver and someone else is the taker. But how can you better yourself and recognize the things that you can do differently in a self-evaluation? Is this something that I have contributed to? Is this something that I can do better? Because maybe I'm not being patient. Maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I'm not being a good communicator. When you think people and you assume that people know what you mean, if you're not able to articulate that, you can't go around on assumptions. A lot of us do, and we expect people to understand what we mean, but we're not actually saying it. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror, my friends, and figure out what you can do differently to improve your relationships with others, especially right now, especially when things are, confusing and hard. We need to own our own stuff and realize that it's okay. Hey, this is an area that I'm not great at, but I can definitely improve upon. You mean enough to me that I want to work on this, and give yourself the opportunity to say, okay, I can be a little bit better in this area. There is nothing wrong with that. And when you realize those things about yourself, you are doing a good intake of recognizing areas in your relationships that you can improve upon, even if it's only upon your part. And that's all that anybody can ask of you to do. So I encourage you to turn the finger on yourself, own it, be it, and try to improve upon things that you can control right now.